Why does it seem like everyone is suddenly talking about electric vehicles? Why are governments pumping billions into EV infrastructure? Why are startups and tech giants racing to develop batteries, charging networks, and sleek, futuristic cars? Is it because of climate change, or is there something bigger happening? A shift so profound that it could redefine not just transportation, but the global economy itself. Let's take a step back. Imagine it's the early 1900s. Cars are emerging as the new mode of transportation. But these aren't the quiet, efficient electric cars we know today. They're noisy, gas-guzzling machines powered by internal combustion engines. The world is just beginning to feel the effects of the Industrial Revolution. Oil becomes the lifeblood of modern civilization, fueling not just cars, but industries, economies, and even wars. Companies like Ford and General Motors dominate the automotive landscape, while nations that control oil reserves wield immense geopolitical power. This is the world as we knew it. But even in the early days, electric vehicles weren't new. In fact, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, electric cars were actually quite popular. They were cleaner, quieter, and easier to drive than their gasoline counterparts. In many ways, they were the ideal choice for urban transportation. However, as gasoline engines improved, offering more range and power, electric vehicles were slowly sidelined in favor of cheaper, more efficient options powered by fossil fuels. Fast forward to the late 20th century, and the automotive industry looks completely different. Gasoline-powered vehicles have dominated the global market for over a century. The rise of oil-powered economies, with their global infrastructure and entrenched interests, made it difficult for anything to challenge the status quo. But by the late 1990s and early 2000s, the world began to change. Rising concerns over air pollution, carbon emissions, and the long-term sustainability of fossil fuels sparked the first wave of real conversations about the future of transportation. And, in the middle of it all, a company that many thought would fail, a small startup in Silicon Valley, began to make waves: Tesla. In 2003, a group of engineers and visionaries founded Tesla with a bold mission: to prove that electric vehicles could not only be practical, but could outperform gasoline cars. At the time, the idea seemed impossible. Electric vehicles were expensive, had limited range, and charging infrastructure was virtually non-existent. But the founders, including Elon Musk, refused to back down. They believed that electric cars could change the world, and they were willing to bet everything on it. The early years were rocky. Tesla faced skepticism, financial difficulties, and technical challenges. But by 2008, something remarkable happened. Tesla unveiled the Roadster, a sleek electric sports car that could travel more than 200 miles on a single charge. It was a game changer. Suddenly, electric vehicles no longer seemed like a novelty. They had the potential to disrupt the entire automotive industry. But why now? Why is the EV market exploding in the 2020s? And what makes it so different from other industries? To understand this, we need to break down the forces driving this revolution. It's not just one thing. It's a perfect storm of environmental, technological, and economic factors. Let's start with the environment. The world is facing an existential crisis. The planet's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate, and the consequences are already being felt. Wildfires, floods, hurricanes, and extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more intense. The scientific consensus is clear. The burning of fossil fuels is the primary driver of this crisis. If we are to avert catastrophic climate change, we need to reduce our reliance on oil, gas, and coal. Enter the electric vehicle. Electric vehicles produce zero tailpipe emissions, making them a critical part of any strategy to reduce greenhouse gases. As governments around the world set ambitious targets to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, electric vehicles are being positioned as a key solution to the climate crisis. Nations like Norway, the UK, and France have set firm deadlines for phasing out internal combustion engine vehicles. Meanwhile, China, the world's largest car market, has committed to having at least 25% of all new car sales be electric by 2025. But it's not just about reducing emissions, it's also about energy. The global shift towards renewable energy, solar, wind, hydro, and nuclear, has made it more feasible than ever to power electric cars with clean energy. Imagine a world where electric cars are charged using solar power, where vehicles are not only emission-free, but contribute to a more sustainable energy grid. This is the vision of a cleaner, greener future, and it's why EVs are being hailed as a cornerstone of climate policy worldwide. The electric vehicle market is hot right now, but markets can be volatile. Just as quickly as EV stocks have soared, there's a real risk of a market correction. Investors are pouring money into companies that have yet to prove themselves, companies that may not survive in the long term. Is this the beginning of a bubble, like the dot-com boom of the late 1990s, where companies with no real product or profit potential were hyped up by investors, only to crash when reality set in? And then there's the question of whether electric vehicles can truly live up to their promises. Yes, they are cleaner than gasoline cars, but are they truly sustainable? What happens to all the old batteries once they've reached the end of their lifespan? Can we recycle enough of them to reduce the environmental impact? How will the electricity to power these vehicles be sourced? Will we simply shift our reliance from one form of fossil fuel to another? As we look ahead, we can't ignore the challenges. The ethical and environmental concerns surrounding raw material mining, the need for widespread charging infrastructure, the question of energy sources. These are real hurdles that must be addressed. But the potential for positive change is